Alright, so I'm going to review Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed. The first one was, as I said, my sort of contribution video to the Year of the Wolf, but these two I'm breaking off and reviewing on my own now. I'm going to say right out, the second movie, in my opinion, is not as good as the first, but it certainly is well enough on its own. And the funny thing about this trilogy, when I look into it now, is that I compare it to The Dusk Till Dawn. Like, both of the first movies are excellent, but here, well, like, Dusk Till Dawn, it had that first great movie, that sucky second movie, and a halfway decent third one. This has three good movies all the way through. The second and the third aren't as good as the first, but they are still worth picking up. Hell, I would even say buy them. Bridget is completely on her own now. She picked up the virus from her sister after the first movie, and unfortunately she had to kill her. But she'd been on her own ever since then. Like, their mother completely just was not used after the events of the first movie when she went crazy and tried to help them, and she just kind of wandered out of the picture. So Bridget's basically on her own. She has been moving from one place to another right now, not because people might find out her secret, but because there's actually another werewolf that's tracking her. And what this has in this movie is the fact that the werewolf has been tracking her because he's attracted to her scent. Hey, the monster's not bad, he just wants a little loving, and he sees her as a potential mate. And that's why she's been moving around so much, because he always manages to pick her up. Now, while the transformation is starting to burn more within her, she's been managing to hold it off for an unspecified amount of time with the monk's hood. She has a large supply of it that she carries around with her. And she's also been doing research, cutting herself, and she writes down like the specific time that she cuts herself, and then she writes down how long it takes for each cut to heal in a notebook. Which it starts out being kind of interesting, but that aspect of the movie slightly annoyed me because, I would understand if she had told somebody her condition and saying, like, this happened, but unfortunately it just winds up being nothing, and I was really disappointed that she went along that route. But basically, long story short, she winds up trying to do a little more research into lycanthropy, but there's something that happens. The librarian that goes to bring her the books finds her in a drug overdose and is going to start driving her off to the hospital, and then the werewolf that has been tracking her shows up and kills him, and she wakes up, or she collapses in the middle of the snow after she takes an overdose of the stuff, and she wakes up in a drug rehab center. And there again, the lycanthropy being the metaphor for the drug abuse, and I'd say even the self-mutilation. They will not turn her loose from the drug abuse treatment center, although she does manage to slip away towards the third act of the movie. But it is cool because it does have kind of a little bit of a horror movie element to it, and we also have a little bit of interaction between these characters, and we also get introduced to a really... She is alright, but she does come off as annoying sometimes. We get introduced to a little girl named Ghost. She may or may not be a pyro, and she may or may not have caused her grandmother to be in there being treated for burns, and since for some reason the family services will not come pick her up and put her in a foster care, she's stuck there. And she's crazy, and she's obsessed over comic books, and you get that the girl is not entirely in her right mind. As throughout this movie, that Bridget is dodging, or trying to get out of the drug rehab center, and she's trying to dodge the werewolf who has managed to follow her over there, and thanks to an abandoned wing of the building is able to get inside and go after her. This is not a bad movie in the long run, but it is my least favorite out of the trilogy. What's funny with this movie too is that we also, like, the transformations are starting to occur. She doesn't have the tail show up at the base of her spine like Ginger did in the first movie, but so, like, for instance, like, her ear starts turning into a point, and she has to mutilate off the point and eventually the ear will grow back, which is kind of disgusting, but it's kind of funny. Which, by the way, the girl really looks like an elf when she has the pointed ears, which I think is kind of funny. But eventually she does succumb to the transformation towards the end of the movie, thanks to Ghost. The reason why we still have Ginger Snaps attached to this, and you're wondering why Catherine's name is still attached to this movie, is that she has been appearing as a ghost to her sister. And it's more of a procrastinating torture spirit type of way, because she's just sitting there and giving her sister shit while Bridget is trying to find a way to take care of or find a way to stop the curse. It sort of plays on the gag from American Werewolf in London, but the catch is only Bridget can see her. What's also the other thing about this movie too that I forgot to mention in the first one is that these types of werewolves, the Ginger Snaps, or at least the first movie was the first one I can recall to where normally you could transition in between wolf and human form. In this one, once you're bit and you transform, you're stuck in that, even in broad daylight, and there's no fixing it. So, we have a little bit of dark humor in this movie, and the story is kind of interesting as it goes along, because, while she is in the center, the werewolf is still around and people still will die. And we do have a few twists in this movie. It's sort of a generic sequel follow-up. It's not bad, but then again, like I say, it is my least favorite of this trilogy. So, yeah, after you get through with the first one, I'd say, yeah, this is worth checking out at least.